What's going on, you lot? I hope you're all sweet. So today's a little bit of a different video. I don't know if you remember, about a week ago, I put out a video that's basically like a behind the scenes B-roll kind of video where me and my mate Brian basically made a cocktail, but we shot it in a way that was completely handheld and like we done some cool funky B-roll with it. Anyway, my boy Daniel Schiffer, I'm sure you'll know Daniel Schiffer, he's an absolute G on the YouTube, mate. He done his own take on that bit of B-roll and obviously implemented his own kind of like style and stuff into it, and he done a pretty decent job. So I thought, you know what, why don't we just watch it back, see what he done, see how he done it differently, and just like see how he shoots, because his style is quite different to mine, but he tried to kind of shoot it in the same way, but implement his own kind of way and style on it. And man, he done a freaking sick job. Anyway, mate, let's get stuck right in. Daniel Schiffer, you're getting another view. Bosh. So straight off the bat, mate, Dan, your video, sick. I can definitely see like some similarities between the way that me and Dan shoot. However, I do notice like one fundamental thing that really kind of separates mine and his style, and I'm going to get into that in a sec.
All right, so first things first, we want to have full control over the lighting situation. Whenever you're doing a shoot, you want the footage to look consistent. So we're gonna start off by closing all of these curtains.
Tell you what, mate, he's got a very, very good point there. If you close off your curtains and you basically black out your environment before you start shooting, you can really control your light and you can actually mold your scene with the lighting to tell the exact story you're trying to tell.
Thankfully, it's like this place knew what's up. They got blackout curtains.
I'll tell you what, Dan, if you need like a 101 lesson on how to close a curtain, mate, just give me a call, I'll sort that out for you.
And speaking of lighting, today we're going to be using, for my first time ever, the Aperture 300D.
So obviously Dan is using a nice soft light. Now you can probably tell by his shots, his lighting is absolutely spot on. And I'm actually quite familiar with Dan's work. I've seen loads and loads of his videos. You can usually tell with his style of cooking videos, they're very, very well lit.
I'll be doing most of the clips in 120 frames per second in HD. I might do a couple of clips in 4K, whether that be 30 frames or 24 frames. We'll kind of play it by ear and see.
Bosh. So yeah, the fact that he actually mentions his frame rates is actually really important to what he's actually trying to show. If you shoot in 120 frames, that allows you to slow it all the way down by like ×5, and then you can actually speed ramp as and when you want. So if you watch a lot of his clips, he ramps up his speed, slows it down on the important parts and whacks it back down, especially when the beat drops and stuff like that. So yeah, Dan, big up.
My white balance is set to 4100 Kelvin. We're gonna be using manual focus, and that's about it.
So manual focus, listen to what he's saying here, people. With the kind of shots that we're doing, especially when you're really close to stuff and things are being thrown up in the air and everything's very, very chaotic in front of the lens, you can't be relying on your camera's autofocus, mate. It just ain't gonna work. Now, this is something that me and Dan both do when we're shooting stuff like this. I always shoot manual focus anyway. I can't remember the last time I actually used autofocus for video. It actually looks like Dan's using the Batis 25mm f2, I think. And I know what that focus ring's like, but on my Canon lens, let me quickly grab it. When you're actually pulling focus with like a manual lens, what I usually do is hold the camera and I'll use my right finger here to actually control the focus. So if I know that I've got a subject that's really far away and they're gonna come towards the lens, I'll just know that I need to pull that focus as I'm pushing closer or as that subject gets closer to the lens. So, Daniel, looks like you do exactly the same, mate. Let's go again.
Okay, so you're gonna grab the cucumber from here. You're gonna pick it up and then flip it, catch it, and place it down. Here, let me act it out for you. So you're gonna stand here, like this.
Very dynamic, mate. Absolutely love it. See, this is another thing that I notice as like a director. You always feel the need to get in the scene and like give it a go yourself to really show him how to do it, and Dan does the exact same. It's not that you can do it better than the actors or subjects, it's just like you kind of know how it's going to look good when you actually shoot it.
Go. That might have been it. Don't know yet.
You're never sure, mate. You're never ever sure. So something that you'll actually notice is the fact that Dan does very, very similar to me. He actually just follows the action. And a nice thing that you can do is when the action's moving, it stops, move the camera with the action. And as soon as it stops, that's like a big hard boom. And it's really kind of impactful for the viewer. So that's quite an interesting thing to do.
So the whole thing with the last shot is that it ends on a down, right? I came down with the camera when she places the cucumber, so I want the next shot to start also with that downward motion. So I'm thinking
he's always thinking about his next shot, so he's kind of following that camera movement down, and then the next shot will start coming down, so they cut together completely seamlessly, and you don't even really need a transition. Very, very clever. You see now they've already like cut the cucumber. They didn't even need to actually cut it, so that they can just keep doing the same job over and over. And the fact that when she hits it down, the cucumber actually like shakes a little bit, so it looks like they have actually cut it. So they've done a wicked job on that.
Instead of like, more like a, you know what I mean?
This is exactly what I do. When you're actually like planning it out, you kind of like make the sound effects yourself with your mouth, like exactly what Dan's doing there. Yeah, I think it's like some weird creative thing. I don't know. Dan, you must be just as weird as me, mate.
What?
I think that basically means that like you're editing it before you've shot it. So like you're shooting it and you're editing in your head at the same time. So yeah, man, always thinking about that edit. Right, I want to say a little bit about his camera movement. If you can see, he's got like a really, really stern grip on the camera with both hands, and he moves his entire like body as he's doing a shot. Like the camera's just doing that, right? But he's not doing it with just his hands. He's got his whole body and he's moving his entire body. So his whole body is rigid and everything is moving. That just takes the jitter out of the camera, because if you're trying to do it like this, your hands can sometimes shake, but if your body's locked on, you can kind of keep that entire motion quite fluid on the end of the camera.
In James's video, he like rolls something. He rolls an orange and then places it down.
I tell you what, mate, he has not made it easy. I used an orange to roll. Brian had an easy job. How do you roll a pepper, mate? It's like got ridges and that. Dan, you made it work. Good job. Oh, the avocado's out. That is an avocado, isn't it? Bosh.
Yeah.
Big fan. Look at the speed ramps, man. Look at how Dan plays him. Oh, God. That's a mango, isn't it?
A bit higher.
Don't listen to me when it comes to fruit, mate. Yes, mate. Now check this out. This is a massive thing that I see Dan doing in a lot of his videos, and I do it as well sometimes. When he's slowed down his footage, he'll punch in on the scale and punch out. This just adds so... My God, what is going on with my voice? It adds so much emphasis on that shot. So when you're going along really, really slow, you can punch in really fast, punch back out, and it just emphasizes that thing that you're punching into. It really draws attention to it. It's mad. Look how focused he is on that screen. It's like all one movement, like you're just locked in like this. And you're trying to direct with your mouth by like telling them what to do. Getting that foreground in there, boy. Very nice.
See that articulating shot? That's the gangster shot. I don't know what I'm saying.
Right, the gangster shot that Dan just used. I don't know if you noticed, but I do this all the time. When you're doing like an articulating, rotating shot, you want to keep your feet like flat on the ground. So when you come to the end of your shot, you like fall over. Go on, catch. Squeeze. Oh, I hope you got it.
Oh my God.
So you kind of like rotating around handheld, and then you get to your end point, but you want to keep going, and then you stack it, mate. And then you're on your ass on the floor. Loving the contrast on the blue nails. Maybe I'll get mine done. Right, here we go. This is the shot of peace and prosperity right here.
I just can't answer the camera.
Miss the glass. That happened to me and Brian when we done the first version of B-roll last year. Me and Brian obviously tried to get the oil to then go down into like the mixer, and you like follow the oil down, and we completely missed the mixer. And you know how they've actually like come past the table? If you stick the cup on the edge of the table, or the mixer, whatever you're following it into, you can then miss the table, which allows you to carry on that movement. If you had like a table here and you had to stop at the table, that'd be like a really jarring, and it'd be a bit of a shit cut at the end. So if you bring it past the table, you can then carry on the take, extend your shot, and it's a lot more fluid. So, yeah.
Here you go.
Cool, this background music's so nice. Right, the squeeze, the iconic squeeze, mate. Yeah, always looks good. It's very, very dynamic. You've got to use it, really.
3, 2, 1, go.
Now, you'll notice with a lot of Dan's like cooking videos, he'll always end on like a really nice slow push in, and then it will like just slightly orbit around, and that's exactly what he done on the end of his B-roll scene. And I think it's a really, really nice way to end off if you're not like trying to just hit the person in the face with like a big, that's kind of what I typically try and do. But Dan does a really good job of actually slowing it down and ending on a really, really nice bit of pace, and actually showing you the end product, which is actually really good for like more commercial style stuff, especially when it comes to food and product filmmaking and product photography and commercials and stuff like that. So Dan, mate, very, very nice. Bosh. Now it comes to the sound design, mate. The most important thing. Legit, Dan, mate. Sound design absolutely on point. Now, I've done the exact same thing on my Instagram, where I actually recorded my sequence without the music, so it's just the sound design. And if you take that sound design out, you just see how empty that scene is. You just hear the music and you see the visuals. Yeah, it looks cool. But when you add that element of sound design in it, it really pulls the viewer into the actual scene. So if you're not doing sound design, I massively recommend adding these little sound effects into your videos. And Dan done an absolutely wicked job on his sound effects, mate. I felt like I was right in there with the knife as it was cutting. I almost felt like I was gonna get like juked. I'm gonna do like a full video on how you can do like some wicked sound design and how you do it from start to finish, so that's coming. You can also see he's added like some visual effects. He's added like some overlays, which actually looks sick. He's used some like camera flares. He's also used some like dust particles, which look wicked. And he's also added on like text on the screen, like glitchy text. Dan, mate, loved it. Now, comparing mine and Dan's footage, I think the main fundamental differences between our styles is the fact that Dan shoots a lot more tighter stuff. He shoots his shots a lot more close up. His shot was obviously on like a 25mm, and I usually shoot mine on like a 10mm. Now you can see that Dan's shots are a lot shallower in terms of their depth of field. He's probably using like a bit of a faster lens, so that is actually helping with actually blowing out his background and really focusing on what is in the frame at that point. It more focuses on what's in the frame rather than the environment, whereas I like to kind of go really, really wide with my like slow motion shots and kind of put like a weird spin on it, because it kind of like warps the background and warps the perspective and the environment. And Dan kind of goes a bit more close up, which shows more details. Now, I think that's because Dan has done a lot of commercial work in like the food industry. And in that industry, you want to really focus on the little details. And that's just something that comes part and parcel with actually like commercializing food. You want to show the details. You want to show how like juicy and good it looks. Whereas with my shots, I just go really wide and try and show a close-up in a wide shot, because you can still do that. A close-up can be a wide shot. But Dan's kind of gone down the more traditional route with keeping it relatively tight. We're not going super tight macro style. Definitely gives it a different perspective. Bosh, so there we have it, mate. My little breakdown of Dan's B-roll, mate. Sick. Dan, your B-roll is naughty, brother. I'll make sure that I leave all of Dan's links in the description if you want to go and check him out. Not being funny, mate, his channel's pretty massive, so if you're following me, more than likely you're already following him, but I just thought I'd do that anyway, because I'm a nice guy, right? Anyway, people, thank you very much for watching this video. I hope you enjoyed it, and I'll catch you lot in the next video, mate. Probably won't be for a few days, because I'm going to Ibiza. Bosh.